Okay, guys, I am really excited about this one. This is the first episode in the series of driver bios that we're doing. We want to try to gonna try to do this pretty often. I've got several drivers already that I've reached out to. I have some questionnaires back already, and then we have some that we're waiting to get back. So I hope to make this a regular thing so that we can help some of the smaller teams and the smaller drivers grow, hopefully, with us. And, we'll cover some of the bigger names too. I have feelers out to people like Billy of Street Racing Channel and Black Betty, that kind of thing. So we're hoping to make it a big series. The first driver, though, that we are doing this video about is Dennis James. And if anybody is into watching, the races that go on in Kentucky and Ohio, that area on down into Tennessee and that kind of thing, you may have already seen Dennis run. Dennis is in his 30s, I believe, and he lives in Kentucky. And his family is always big into racing. And he actually started between 2000 and 2004, he raced bikes. And then when he got into cars, his first car was a 2003 Mustang. Then he's been racing now for about 2 years, been racing regularly anyway. And he drives the S10 that you see here. And it's got a 434 small block Chevy with a touch, he says, of nitrous and a Power Glide trans. So it's a pretty good setup, and I have seen him put that thing on the bumper so many times it is not even funny. It's got a lot of power, and when he can keep it on all four wheels, nobody really has a chance. That's a mean truck. It really, really is. I asked Dennis several different questions about what he thought about things and, how he came to do this or that. And I asked him what type of racing he prefers, because we have a lot of different ones. We have bracket racing, we have the no prep, we have prep track, and then we have what I'll call after hours no prep, because apparently if you use the word racing and you use the word street in front of it, you can get shadow banned. And our channel is tiny, so I would rather not risk that. So when I say after hours no prep, I'm assuming everybody knows what we're talking about, which is what he actually prefers, is the after hours. But if he can't do that, then the no prep track, is his next, his second choice, if you want to say. And so far, Dennis has actually been pretty lucky. He's never wrecked this truck. He's definitely had a few close calls, but he doesn't seem to be really worried about it. He said if it ever happens, they'll just rebuild and get back to it, you know. And every driver has something that bothers them or aggravates them or they just don't like to deal with. And Dennis is no different. So I'll just give you a piece of advice. If you ever see Dennis at an event, and if he's getting everything ready and it's getting close to race time, or if there's last minute repairs he's trying to make, you might want to give him some space. That's not going to be the best time to talk to him, because his biggest pet peeve is having to rush. He absolutely hates having to rush. And if you have ever raced, then you know pretty much the last hour or two before you come up to go into the burnout box, if some little thing has gone wrong, you're rushing. That's just how it is. Now, because Dennis loves the sport so much, he doesn't really have a favorite event. As long as he can race, he's happy. He loves all of them. But his favorite track, if he had to pick one, is Katy in Ohio. And if anybody's ever been to this track, you probably understand why Dennis likes it so much. It's laid out really well. There's room for you to have good parking spots to work on your cars. There's, the return road is easy to get to. And then you have the challenge of the hill. And the photos and videos do not do this track justice at all. When you get past the finish line, just past the finish line, it basically goes straight up, and a lot of drivers like that just because they like the challenge. But that's one of Dennis's favorite places to race. And every driver has a favorite moment or a best moment, one that sticks in their mind. And Dennis has one too. His, he said, was at KD in Ohio this past July, which we were there for. That was Cash Days at the Hill. And Dennis put the truck on two wheels and went 100 feet on the bumper. And that landed him $1,200. He won the wheelie contest. And that actually was not the first time that he put the truck on the bumper. He did it, I believe it was the day before. But it's almost like it's impossible to keep that truck on four wheels. It wants to go on the bumper, but it's just got so much power. But that was one of his highlight moments, was winning the wheelie contest at KD. Now I also asked him if there was anything he would change about street or no prep racing if he could. And like a lot of other racers, he said, I'd like to see the streets come back and have more races, but they're not easy to make happen with all the attention streetcar takeovers are bringing to light. Kind of makes it hard on us when they're doing dumb shit. And what he's talking about, if you don't know, is these guys that have been coming out and they've been filming it. It's on TikTok and it's on Facebook and it's on YouTube. It's everywhere. They don't actually race. They just go out and do a bunch of ridiculous donuts in the middle of the road. And a lot of law enforcement have just combined that into the sport that we like to watch and not realize that it is completely different, And it's giving no prep and, quote, after hours, no prep, a bad name because of what they're doing. And I also, because we were talking about things that had an influence on this sport, I asked him about whether or not he thought the TV show had helped or hurt street racing in the long run. No prep or after hours, no prep or whatever. Sorry, I said the SR word. Hopefully I won't get nagged for that. But in his opinion, he said, I think the TV show hurt the scene. It brought a lot of unwanted attention to us and kind of showed people what we do. And now you can hardly put a small race on without 1,000 people wanting to come watch. And, he has a point. There are two sides to every coin, but he has a point. Because if you're doing something after hours and it's supposed to be under the radar, or it's kind of supposed to be a stealth mission or whatever, it's kind of hard to do that and not bring attention to yourself when you have 1,000 people or more standing around watching you. So, it does make it a little bit harder. And I guess it is kind of a catch-22. If nobody's interested in the sport, it will die. If there's so many people interested in it that the under the radar stuff is, got a big spotlight on it, then that's kind of a negative thing. At the time of the interview, I also asked him, of all the races you've had, what would be like your biggest moment, your best moment, your favorite moment, that kind of thing. And he said of all the ones he'd had, like I said, at least to our time of interview, he'd had a chance to race Jasper Graham in Ohio. And if anybody has followed this at all or knows anything about no prep, you know who Jasper Graham is. He's kind of a big wig. He's a big deal. And Dennis had been a huge fan of Jasper's for a long time when he got to race him. He said, the man's a legend in no prep. Just to be able to have the chance to stage beside him is an honor. So that was a really big highlight for him. And in his opinion, I asked, too, about who he thought of all the newer and up and coming racers. Who did he think, would make a name for themselves or start drawing attention to themselves? And there were three that he thought would have the possibility of making a pretty big name for themselves. The first one was Alan Thompson. He drives Butterface, this Malibu here. Zach Jones in Doc Holliday, and we got a chance to see that car run at Cash Days at the Hill back in July, and the car's mean. It's absolutely mean. It's a very badass car. And since I'm anti Ford, that's a big thing coming from me. Cameron McCune, also, the Fox body he drives called Scrappy. Dennis said that he really thought these three guys had the potential of making a name for themselves, and they're all on Team Meatball, which is the group that I told you about a couple of weeks ago or a week ago that lost a member of their race team. All three of these guys are Team Meatball guys, and I've seen some of the races since we did this interview, and Dennis was right. They've won a lot of races. They have made a lot of progress. A couple of them, one or two of them, have made it to either the finals. They've made it to either one or been runner ups. I would have to go check the stats for that, but they've definitely made a dent in things and brought attention to themselves. So Dennis was right about that. I'm kind of curious to see and excited to see how far these guys go, because so far they're doing pretty well. And he also had some advice to new drivers, people trying to get into this sport. And it was pretty simple and extremely direct. He had basically two pieces of advice. Number one, shut up and listen to the guys who've been doing it for a while, listen and learn. And number two, don't invite all your friends to the after hours, no prep races. And he's right. This is sort of common sense. If you get into anything, a sport, a business, you need to pay attention. The people who have been in it longer than you know what they're talking about. When you're getting into something and you're new, that's what you need to do. Dennis is right. You need to be quiet and absorb everything you can. Be a sponge. Because the old guys, they know what they're talking about. Not just in street racing. That's just a good piece of advice for anybody. I also asked him because I asked him this question because we all know everybody can't race. Not everybody can get in a car and go as fast as they do from point A to point B. They just can't. And to be a real after hours no prep racer, Dennis says the main things that you have to have, and like I said, in his opinion, are, quote, balls and a good team. And you do. You have to have a spine of steel and you have to have good support or you're not going to make it from point A to point B. You have to have somebody that'll have your back and you have to have enough nerve to be able to get in that vehicle and take it all the way to the finish line. So you do have to have balls and a good team. And Dennis is somebody that you probably want to pay attention to what he says anyway, because even though he's been, hardcore into this like 2 years or a little more, he's been inducted already into the Brotherhood of Street Racers International. If you have ever watched the Happy and Limpy show or anything like that, Happy is a member, and that, when he's at the races, he always wears his cut. It's got the big patch on the back, and Dennis is now a member of that. And he put a Facebook post up here, and you can see what he said about it. It was an honor. It's a big deal for him to be basically included into the OG group of guys that do this. So Dennis is making a name for himself, definitely, absolutely. And I really think by this time next year, there'll be twice as many people know who he is. They'll recognize that truck because he's going places. He absolutely is. And, he's doing some work on this truck. And as fast as it already is, I cannot wait to see what happens, as he tweaks things and improves things and keeps going. Dennis is definitely going to be one of the heavy hitters and one of the big names in this sport before it's over with. He already is. He absolutely already is. And I just want to take this opportunity to tell him thank you for being willing to do this interview with me. Our channel is, like I said, tiny. But we want to try to shed light on people. Do we want to grow? Absolutely. But we want the drivers that need to grow or want to grow, we want them to grow with us. So, the fact that we can have people of Dennis's caliber and things like that to do interviews for us, is amazing, and we really do appreciate it, you know. So shout out to Dennis. Thank you so much for taking the time to answer the questions for me and working with me on this. I hope you enjoy this. And if you guys want to see a specific driver covered, or you have a specific vehicle, you know, let us know. Drop it in the comments or go catch us on Facebook. Shoot me a message, comment, whatever you want to do, and let us know who you would like for us to cover, because we do want this to be a series before it's over with, something that we do all the time. So make sure you like and subscribe so that you don't miss anything. You don't miss any other bios. This week, the results and upcoming race video is probably going to be combined, and it's going to drop, I think, Wednesday. Anytime we have a driver bio video coming out, we'll probably combine the upcoming and the results videos together. But like I said, make sure you like and subscribe, and we'll have the other video up Wednesday. If you have a suggestion, let us know. And until Wednesday, that's it for me, guys. I'm out of here, and I will see you on the next one.